Throughout the application lifecycle management process, you can run manual and automated tests to locate defects and assess the quality of your application. You start by creating test sets and choosing which tests to include in each set. A test set is a group of tests in a Quality Center project designed to achieve specific testing goals. Quality Center enables you to control the execution of tests in a test set by setting conditions and scheduling the date and time for executing your tests. After you define test sets, you can begin to execute your tests. You can then use Quality Center to view and analyze the results of your tests. When you run a test manually, you execute the test steps you defined in test planning. You pass or fail each step, depending on whether the actual results match the expected output. When you run a test automatically, Quality Center opens the selected testing tool, which runs the test and imports the test results to Quality Center. In this lesson, you will learn about defining test sets, adding tests to a test set, scheduling test runs, running tests manually, viewing and analyzing test results, running tests automatically. After you design tests in the test plan module, you create a test sets tree. A test sets tree enables you to organize your testing needs by grouping test sets in folders and organizing them in different hierarchical levels in the test lab module. You assign each test set folder to a cycle. This enables you to group together test sets that will be run during the same cycle and analyze the progress of the cycle as you run your tests. Test sets can include both manual and automated tests. You can also include instances of the same test in different test sets, or add more than one instance to the same test set. To decide which test sets to create, consider the goals you defined at the beginning of the application lifecycle management process. Consider issues such as the current state of the application and the addition or modification of new features. Following are examples of general categories of test sets you can create. Sanity. Checks entire application at a basic level, focusing on breadth rather than depth to verify that the application is functional and stable. This set includes fundamental tests that contain positive checks, validating that the application is functioning properly. For example, in the Mercury Tours application, you could test whether the application opens and enables you to log in. Regression. Tests the system in a more in-depth manner than Sanity set. This set can include both positive and negative checks. Negative tests attempt to fail an application to demonstrate that the application is not functioning properly. In this exercise, you will define the Mercury Tours site test set. You will also set failure rules for the test set to instruct Quality Center how to proceed in the event that an automated test in the test set fails. To define a test set. 1. Open the QualiCenter demo project. If the QualiCenter demo project is not already open, log into the project. 2. Display the Test Lab module. Click the Test Lab button on the sidebar. Choose View Test Sets Tree to display test sets in the Test Sets tree. 3. Add a folder to the Test Sets tree. In the Test Sets tree in the left pane, select the root folder. Click the New Folder button. The New Folder dialog box opens. In the folder name box, type Service Pack 1 and click OK. 4. Create subfolders for the test set folder. Select the Service Pack 1 folder you created and repeat the previous step to create two subfolders named Cycle 1 New Features and Cycle 2 Full. 5. Assign the test set folders to a cycle. Select the Cycle 1 New Features test set folder and click the Assign to Cycle button. The Assign to Cycle dialog box opens. In the Service Packs Releases folder, in the Service Pack 1 release, select the Cycle 1 New Features cycle. Click OK. The icon for the folder in the Test Sets tree changes to show that the folder has been assigned to a cycle. Right-click the Cycle 2 Full Test Sets folder and choose Assign to Cycle. Assign the folder to the Cycle 2 Full cycle, located in the Service Pack 1 release in the Releases tree. 6. Add a test set to the Cycle 1 New Features test set folder. In the Test Sets tree, select Cycle 1 New Features. Click the New Test Set button. The New Test Set dialog box opens. Type the following. Test set name, Mercury Tours site description. This test set includes tests that verify the functionality of the Mercury Tours site. Click OK. The Mercury Tours site test set is added to the test sets tree in the left pane. 7. Define the test set details. Click the Details tab. By default, the status indicates that the test set is open. Perform the following. Open date. Select a date from the calendar for the planned opening date for the test set. Close date. Select the planned closing date for the test set. 8. Set rules for the automated tests in the test set in the event of a test failure. Click the Automation tab. Click on Failure. Perform the following. On automated test failure, select the first checkbox, and make sure that the number of times an automated test can be rerun is set to 1. On final test failure, make sure that the Do Nothing option is selected. 9. Instruct Quality Center to send email to specified users if certain events occur. Click Notifications. Perform the following. Send email in the event of. Select the first checkbox to send email notification if any test in the test set fails. 2. Type your email address. Message. Type the following. This test failed. Please review the test results and submit effect, adding tests to a test set. After you define a test set, you can add test instances to your test set. In this exercise, you will add test instances to the Mercury Tours site test set. To add a test to a test set. 1. Make sure the test lab module is displayed. If the test lab module is not displayed, click the Test Lab button on the sidebar. If the test sets tree view is not displayed, choose View Test Sets Tree. 2. Display the Execution Grid tab. In the Test Sets tree, expand the Cycle 1 New Features Test Set folder under Service Pack 1. Select the Mercury Tours site test set. Click the Execution Grid tab. 3. Display the test plan tree if it is not already displayed. Click the Select Tests button. The right pane displays the test plan tree. If any filters are applied, clear them. In the test plan tree, click the Set Filter, Sort arrow, and choose Clear Filter, Sort. Click Yes to confirm. In the Execution Grid, click the Set Filter, Sort arrow, and choose Clear Filter, Sort. Click Yes to confirm. 4. Add the Cruises folder to the test set. In the Test Plan tree, select the Cruises folder, and click the Add Tests to Test Set button. Click Yes to confirm. The Parameters of Test dialog box opens because you are adding a test with an unassigned parameter value to a test set. Click Cancel to close the dialog box. You will assign this parameter value when you run the cruise booking test. The tests are added to the test set. 5. Add the airline preference test to the test set. To search for the test, in the Find box, type airline and click the Find button. The airline preference test is highlighted in the test plan tree. Double-click the airline preference test. The test instance is added to the test set. 6. Add the number of passengers test to the test set. To search for the test, in the Find box, type number of passengers and click the Find button. The number of passengers test is highlighted in the test plan tree. Drag the number of passengers test from the test plan tree to the Execution Grid to add it to the test set. 7. Close the right pane. 8. Click the Close button. Scheduling test runs. The Execution Flow tab enables you to specify a date and time to execute a test instance and set conditions for it. A condition is based on the results of another specified test instance in the execution flow. By setting conditions, you can postpone the execution of a test instance until another specified test instance finishes running or passes. You can also set the sequence in which to execute the test instances. For example, you can schedule Test 2 to run only after Test 1 finishes, and Test 3 to run only if Test 2 passes. You can also schedule Test 1 and Test 2 to run a day before Test 3. The execution flow displays the tests and their conditions in a diagram. A dashed line arrow indicates a test with no conditions. A solid line arrow indicates a condition and can be blue or green. If the solid line is blue, it indicates that the condition is set to finished. If the solid line is green, it indicates that the condition is set to passed. A time dependency icon is displayed for time-dependent tests. In this exercise, you will create a new test set and add to it 3 test instances that verify the login procedure on the sign-on page of the Mercury Tours site. Then, you will set the conditions for each test instance and specify when each one is to be run. To schedule a test run. 1. Make sure the Test Lab module is displayed. If the Test Lab module is not displayed, click the Test Lab button on the sidebar. Choose View Test Sets Tree to display test sets in the Test Sets tree. 2. Create a new test set. In the Test Sets tree, choose the Service Pack 1 folder and click the New Test Set button. The New Test Set dialog box opens. Type the following. Test set name, test run schedule description. This test set is used to explain how to schedule a test run. Click OK. The test run schedule test set is added to the test sets tree in the left pane. 3. Add a test instance from the sign-on, sign-off folder to the test run schedule test set. Click the Execution Flow tab. If the test plan tree is not open, click the Select Tests button. The test plan tree is displayed in the right pane. In the Find box in the test plan tree, type sign and click the Find button to search for the sign-on, sign-off folder. The sign-on, sign-off folder is highlighted in the test plan tree. Select the sign-on page test. Click the Add Tests to Test Set button. The Parameters of Test dialog box opens because you are adding a test instance with an unassigned parameter value to a test set. Click Cancel to close the dialog box. The test instance is added to the test set. 4. Add 2 additional test instances to the test set. Drag the sign-on username test to the execution flow area. The Parameters of Test dialog box opens. Click Cancel. Double-click the sign-on password test to add it to the execution flow. The Parameters of Test dialog box opens. Click Cancel. 5. Add an execution condition to the sign-on username test. Right-click the sign-on username test instance and choose Test Run Schedule. The Run Schedule dialog box opens and displays the Execution Conditions tab. Click New. The New Execution Condition dialog box opens. In the test box, select Sign-on page. Select Passed from the list on the right to instruct Quality Center to execute the sign-on username test instance only if the sign-on page test instance finishes executing and passes. Click OK. The condition is added to the Run Schedule dialog box. 6. Add a time dependency condition to the sign-on username test instance. Click the Time Dependency tab. Under Run at Specified Time, select the Date checkbox and select tomorrow's date. Click OK to close the Run Schedule dialog box. Your conditions are displayed in the execution flow diagram. 7. Add an execution condition to the sign-on password test. Add the same execution condition as described in Step 5 for the sign-on password test. This time select Sign-on username from the test box in the New Execution Condition dialog box. 8. Add a time dependency condition to the sign-on password test. Add the same time dependency condition as described in Step 6 for the sign-on password test. Click OK to close the Run Schedule dialog box. Your conditions are displayed in the execution flow diagram. 9. Rearrange the tests in a hierarchical layout. Click the Arrange Layout button. Running tests manually. When you run a test manually, you follow the test steps and perform operations on your application. Then, you compare the expected results with the actual outcome and record the results. You can execute a manual test as many times as needed. The results are stored separately for each one. You can run both manual and automated tests manually. You can also choose to run a single test or to run an entire test set. In this exercise, you will run the cruise booking and cruise search tests. To run a test manually, 1. Make sure the Test Lab module is displayed. If the Test Lab module is not displayed, click the Test Lab button on the sidebar. Click the Execution Grid tab. Choose View Test Sets Tree to display test sets in the Test Sets tree. 2. Select the Mercury Tours site test set. In the Test Sets tree, under Service Pack 1, expand the Cycle 1 New Features Test Set folder. Select the Mercury Tours site test set. 3. select the cruise booking test from the execution grid. In the Execution Grid tab, select Cruise Booking. Click the Run button. The Manual Runner dialog box opens. 4. Start the test run. Click the Begin Run button. The Parameters of Test Run dialog box opens because you have an unassigned parameter in the test. 5. Assign a value for the password parameter. Click the Actual Value box for password and type the same password you used in Mercury Tours. Click OK. The Manual Runner dialog box opens. 6. Display the Manual Runner dialog box in the compact view. Click the Compact View button. This enables you to read each step individually and record the results. 7. Perform the first step. Perform the procedure described in the description box. If the actual result is the same as the expected result in the actual box, type the Mercury Tours site opens. Click the Pass Selected button. Step 2 is displayed. 8. Perform the second step. Perform the procedure described in the description box. If the actual result is the same as the expected result in the actual box, type the Flight Finder page opens. Click the Pass Selected button. Step 3 is displayed. 9. Perform the third step. Perform the procedure described in the description box. If the actual result is the same as the expected result in the actual box, type the Cruise Special page opens. Click the Pass Selected button. Step 4 is displayed. 10. Perform the fourth step. Perform the procedure described in the description box. If the actual result is different than the expected result in the actual box, type the Flight Finder page opens instead of the cruise reservation page. Click the Fail Selected button. 11. Return to the default display of the Manual Runner. Click the Back to Steps grid button. The default display of the Manual Runner Step Details dialog box is displayed. 12. End the test run. Click the End Run button to end your test run. 13. Run the cruise search test. In the Execution Grid tab, select the Test Cruise Search and click the Run button. The Manual Runner opens. Perform the steps for the test as you did for the cruise booking test, but this time pass each step. 14. View the test run results in the Execution Grid. Following the execution of your tests, you can view the test run results of your last run in the Execution Grid. Note that the test run status for the cruise booking test is updated from No Run to Failed, and the test run status for the cruise search test is updated from No Run to Passed. 15. View the results of each test step in the Last Run Result pane. Select the cruise booking test. If the Last Run Result pane is not displayed, click the Show button on the bottom of the pane. The Last Run Result pane is displayed below the Execution Grid, viewing and analyzing test results. Quality Center provides a number of features that enable you to view and analyze the results of your tests. This section includes viewing test results, viewing test coverage, viewing coverage progress. You can also use Quality Center reports and graphs to further analyze your test results. Viewing test results. You can view results for a test in the Test Instance Properties dialog box. This includes details of the test's runs, attachments, link defects, and history. In this exercise, you will learn how to view test run information in the Test Instance Properties dialog box. To view test results, 1. Make sure the Test Lab module is displayed. If the Test Lab module is not displayed, click the Test Lab button on the sidebar. Choose View Test Sets Tree to display test sets in the test sets tree. 2. Display the Mercury Tours site test set in the Execution Grid. Click the Execution Grid tab. In the Test Sets tree, expand the Cycle 1 New Features Test Set folder under Service Pack 1. Select the Mercury Tours site test set. 3. Select the cruise booking test from the Execution Grid. In the Execution Grid tab, select Cruise Booking. 4. View detailed test results from the Test Instance Properties dialog box. Click the Test Instance Properties button. The Test Instance Properties dialog box opens and displays the All Runs view. 5. View other test run information in the Test Instance Properties dialog box. Click Details to view run details of the test. Click Configuration and select the Manual Parameters tab to view manual parameters for the test. Note that any changes that you make will be implemented in the next test run. Click Link Defects to view and manage defect links made to other Quality Center entities. Click History to view a list of changes made to the test run fields. 6. Close the Test Instance Properties dialog box. Click the Close button, viewing test coverage. You previously saw how you can use the Coverage Analysis view to analyze the breakdown of child requirements according to their test coverage. In this exercise, you will learn how to filter the tests included in the coverage analysis by cycle. To view test coverage. 1. Open the Requirements module in the Coverage Analysis view. Click the Requirements button on the sidebar. Choose View, Coverage Analysis. 2. Filter the tests included in the coverage analysis by cycle. On the upper right side of the window, click the Browse button in the Coverage Calculation by Cycle box. In the Releases tree, expand the Release Folder Service Packs and the Release Service Pack 1. Select the Cycle 1 New Features checkbox and click OK. Expand the Cruise Reservation requirement. In the Coverage Analysis column, you can see that both sub-requirements have failed. This is because the tests covered by the requirement failed. Viewing Coverage Progress. You were previously introduced to the Progress tab in the Releases module. In this exercise, you will view the graphs and statistics that now reflect the results of tests you ran in previous exercises. To view coverage progress. 1. Open the Releases module. Click the Management button on the sidebar and then click the Releases tab. 2. View the effect of your test runs on the Progress tab. In the Releases tree, expand the Release Folder Service Packs and the Release Service Pack 1. Select Cycle 1 New Features and click the Progress tab, running tests automatically. When you run an automated test, Quality Center automatically opens the selected testing tool, which runs the test on your local machine or on remote hosts and imports the results to Quality Center. You can run all tests in a test set or run specific tests. You can run tests from the Execution Grid tab or the Execution Flow tab. In this exercise, you will run an automated test from the Mercury Tour site test set. To run a test automatically. 1. Make sure the Test Lab module is displayed. If the Test Lab module is not displayed, click the Test Lab button on the sidebar. Choose View, Test Sets tree to display test sets in the Test Sets tree. 2. Display the Mercury Tour site test set in the Execution Grid. Click the Execution Grid tab. In the Test Sets tree, expand the Cycle 1 New Features Test Set folder under Service Pack 1. Select the Mercury Tour site test set. 3. Select a test. To run a WinRunner test, select Airline Preference. To run a Quick Test Professional test, select Number of Passengers. Click the Run button. The Automatic Runner dialog box opens and displays the selected test. 4. Set the test run settings. Select the Run All Tests Locally checkbox to run the test on your local computer. 5. Run the test. Click the Run button. Quality Center opens the selected testing tool automatically and runs the test. You view the test execution progress in the Status column. 6. Close the Automatic Runner dialog box. After the test run is complete, choose Run, Exit. 7. View a summary of test results in the Execution Grid. The Execution Grid displays the updated status for the test run. Results for each test step appear in the Last Run Result pane. 8. Close your selected testing tool. In Quick Test Professional or WinRunner, choose File, Exit.